Good evening, and welcome to the Sleeping Zoo. Facts to fall asleep to. The silent mist-shrouded canopy of the eastern Himalayas holds a secret that defies the standard conventions of mammalian evolution. A creature that exists as a solitary lineage, representing a family tree that has all but withered away. This is the story of the red panda, or Ailurus fulgens, an animal that is neither a panda in the traditional sense nor a raccoon, despite its deceptive mask and ringed tail. To truly begin our journey into the life of this arboreal enigma, we must first strip away the common misconceptions that have clouded its identity since its discovery by Western science in the early 19th century. Though the name panda was originally bestowed upon this fiery furred creature nearly half a century before the giant panda was known to the world, the two animals share little more than a dietary preference and a common ancestor that lived tens of millions of years ago. The red panda stands alone in its own family, Ailuridae, a taxonomic island in a sea of more successful diversifying carnivores. It is the last of its kind, a living fossil that has survived the rise and fall of various ice ages and the shifting of tectonic plates that raised the very mountains it now calls home. To understand the profound isolation of the red panda, we must look back into the deep time of the Miocene epoch, roughly 25 to 30 million years ago. During this period, the ancestors of the red panda were part of a much larger and more diverse group of carnivores that roamed across Europe, North America, and Asia. Fossil evidence of extinct relatives, such as the Ailurus, suggests that these ancient ailurids were once widespread and varied in size. However, as the climate shifted and other more adaptable predators emerged, the lineage began to contract, eventually retreating to the high-altitude refugia of the Sino-Himalayan region. Today, the red panda is categorized within the superfamily Mustaloidea, a group it shares with weasels, skunks, and protionids like raccoons. Yet, even within this superfamily, the red panda is a radical outlier. Genetic sequencing reveals that it diverged from its closest relatives so long ago that it essentially functions as a distinct evolutionary experiment, one that specialized in a lifestyle that should, by all rights of its carnivoran heritage, be impossible. This taxonomic uniqueness is further complicated by the fact that we are not looking at a single uniform species, but rather two distinct evolutionary units that have only recently been formally recognized as separate species by many in the scientific community. The Himalayan red panda, Ailurus fulgens, and the Chinese red panda, Ailurus diani, are separated by the formidable barrier of the Nujiang River. While they look superficially similar to the untrained eye, the Chinese variety tends to be larger, with a deeper, more mahogany red coat and more prominent tail rings. Their skulls also differ in subtle ways, reflecting a long period of genetic isolation. This distinction is not merely a matter of academic record. It is a critical piece of the conservation puzzle, as each group faces unique environmental pressures and possesses a distinct genetic blueprint that requires tailored protection strategies. By recognizing these two branches of the Ailuridae family, we begin to appreciate the true complexity of their survival in the vertical wilderness. The most striking physical attribute of the red panda is undoubtedly its coat, a dense and layered arrangement of fur that serves as a high-tech thermal suit for life in the clouds. The top layer consists of long, coarse guard hairs that are infused with a rich reddish-orange pigment known as erythrin. Beneath this lies a thick, woolly undercoat that traps air and provides exceptional insulation against the biting winds of the Himalayan winter. This coloration, while seemingly vibrant and conspicuous in a laboratory setting, is actually a masterclass in disruptive camouflage when viewed within the context of the temperate, broadleaf forests. In these high-altitude environments, the trees are often draped in a heavy cloak of reddish-brown mosses and white, beard-like lichens. When a red panda curls into a ball high in the canopy, its coat blends seamlessly with these botanical textures, making it nearly invisible to predators like the snow leopard or the clouded leopard. Even the dark, almost black fur on its underbelly serves a purpose, hiding the animal's silhouette from predators looking up from the forest floor against the dim light of the canopy. As we move from the external appearance to the internal mechanics of the animal, we encounter one of the most fascinating examples of convergent evolution in the natural world, the radial sesamoid bone, or the pseudo-thumb. This is an enlarged bone in the wrist that functions as an opposable digit, allowing the red panda to grasp bamboo stalks with remarkable precision. What makes this feature so extraordinary is that the giant panda possesses a nearly identical structure, yet the two species evolved this thumb independently. In the case of the red panda, the pseudo-thumb likely evolved first as an adaptation for arboreal locomotion, helping the animal navigate the narrow, slippery branches of the moss-covered canopy. Only later did this anatomical quirk become a specialized tool for feeding. This exaptation states that a trait that evolved for one purpose and was later co-opted for another is a recurring theme in the red panda's evolutionary history, highlighting the clever ways in which nature repurposes existing structures to solve new problems. The arboreal mechanics of the red panda are further enhanced by its plantigrade gait, a characteristic it shares with humans and bears, where the entire sole of the foot touches the ground. This provides a stable base when walking on the ground, but it is in the trees where their feet truly shine. The soles of a red panda's feet are covered in thick white fur, a feature that is rare among carnivores. This fur serves a dual purpose. It provides insulation against frozen surfaces and acts as a high-friction grip on wet, mossy branches. Furthermore, the red panda possesses semi-retractable claws that are sharp and curved, functioning like climbing spikes. Perhaps their most impressive gymnastic feat is the ability to rotate their ankles by nearly 180 degrees. This allows them to descend trees head first, a skill shared by only a few other mammals, such as the margay and the clouded leopard. This downward-facing descent is crucial for a quick escape from predators or for moving between different levels of the forest without having to leap blindly. Life in the high forest is a constant struggle against the cold, and the red panda has evolved a suite of physiological adaptations to manage its energy budget. Their metabolism is remarkably low for an animal of their size, a necessity driven by their highly specialized and nutrient-poor diet. Red pandas are carnivores by classification, possessing the digestive system of a meat-eater, yet they derive 98% of their nutrition from bamboo. Because bamboo is high in indigestible cellulose and lignin, and the red panda lacks the complex, multi-chambered stomach of a ruminant, it must consume vast quantities of the plant to survive. A single red panda may eat upwards of 4 pounds of bamboo shoots and leaves every day, which can account for nearly 30% of its body weight. To compensate for the low caloric intake, they have adopted a strategy of metabolic depression during the coldest months. They can lower their heart rate and body temperature, entering a state of semi-torpor to conserve every possible joule of energy while they wait for the sun to hit the canopy. The chemistry of the red panda's gut is a subject of intense scientific scrutiny. Unlike the giant panda, which can process a wider variety of bamboo species and even small amounts of meat, the red panda is much more selective. They prefer the most nutrient-dense parts of the plant, specifically the tender leaf tips and the young succulent shoots. Because their digestive tract is short, the bamboo passes through their system in as little as 2 to 4 hours. They do not have the luxury of slow fermentation. Instead, they rely on a rapid throughput strategy, extracting whatever soluble sugars and proteins they can before the fiber is expelled. This puts them on a perpetual energetic knife edge. During the spring and summer, when bamboo is rich in nutrients, the pandas can afford to be more active. But as winter approaches and the quality of the forage declines, they transition into a mode of extreme lethargy, spending up to 17 hours a day, sleeping or resting to minimize energy expenditure. This reliance on bamboo creates a unique ecological vulnerability known as the bamboo death cycle. Many species of bamboo are semelparous, meaning they grow for decades without flowering, only to undergo a massive, synchronous flowering event followed by the death of the entire population. In a pristine, contiguous forest, a red panda could simply migrate to another area where a different species of bamboo is still thriving. However, in the modern landscape of fragmented habitats and human encroachment, these flowering events can be catastrophic. If a localized patch of bamboo dies off, and there is no corridor to a neighboring forest, the resident red panda population faces immediate starvation. This interdependency between the panda and its primary food source is one of the most delicate balances in nature, a tightrope walk that has become increasingly precarious as human activity carves the forest into smaller and smaller islands. Beyond the practicalities of survival, the red panda occupies a singular place in the cultural imagination of the people who share its mountain home. In the high-altitude villages of Sikkim and Bhutan, the red panda is often referred to as the Wa or the Nigaya Ponya, names that imitate its soft bird-like vocalizations. To many local communities, the red panda is a symbol of good luck and a guardian of the forest. Folklore tells of the firefox that carries the spirit of the woods within its glowing fur, and to spot one is considered a blessing from the mountain deities. This reverence has historically provided a layer of protection for the species, as traditional taboos often prohibited the hunting of these gentle spirits. In recent years, this cultural connection has been digitized and globalized, most notably through the naming of the Firefox web browser, which, contrary to popular belief, was named after the red panda rather than a literal fox. This global recognition has turned the red panda into an international ambassador for the eastern Himalayas, drawing attention to the plight of an ecosystem that is often overshadowed by the more famous peaks of Everest and K2 highs. Communication in the world of the red panda is a subtle and multi-sensory affair, involving a complex language of scents and sounds. Being largely solitary animals, they rely heavily on territorial mapping to avoid unnecessary conflict. They possess specialized scent glands located near the anus and on the soles of their feet. As they move through the forest, they mark their territory by rubbing these glands against rocks, trees, and trails. The chemical composition of these secretions is incredibly detailed, conveying information about the individual's identity, sex, age, and reproductive status. To another red panda, a scent mark is not just a boundary line, it is a biography. During the breeding season, which occurs in the late winter, these scent trails become the primary means for males to locate females. The usually silent pandas also become more vocal during this time, engaging in a series of twittering and whistling calls that sound more like the songs of a mountain bird than the utterances of a carnivore. The reproductive cycle of the red panda is a marvel of timing and biological precision. Females are only in estrus for a very short window, sometimes only 12 to 24 hours once a year. This necessitates a high degree of synchrony between the sexes, facilitated by the aforementioned scent marking. After a successful mating, the female undergoes a gestation period that ranges from 110 to 145 days. This wide variation is due to a process called delayed implantation, where the fertilized embryo does not immediately attach to the uterine wall. Instead, it remains in a state of suspended animation, allowing the female to time the birth so that the cubs emerge during the peak of the bamboo shoot season in early summer. This ensures that the mother has access to the highest quality nutrition while she is nursing her vulnerable offspring. When the cubs are born, they are tiny, blind, and covered in a pale buff-colored fur that lacks the vibrant red of the adultcy. They are entirely dependent on their mother, who builds a nursery nest in a hollow tree or a rocky crevice, lining it with soft moss and leaves. For the first few weeks, the mother rarely leaves the nest, providing the warmth and milk necessary for the cubs' rapid development. As they grow, their fur begins to darken, eventually taking on the iconic rusty hue of the species. By the age of 3 months, they begin to venture out of the nest, following their mother through the canopy and learning the complex art of navigating the vertical world. These early months are a critical period of mentorship, where the cubs observe their mother's feeding techniques and learn which bamboo species are safe to eat and which trees provide the best cover from predators. The social structure of red pandas, while generally solitary, reveals a hidden layer of complexity when observed in high-density areas. While they do not form packs or family groups like wolves or primates, they do exhibit a form of mutual avoidance that is surprisingly sophisticated. Males tend to have larger home ranges that overlap with several female territories, but they rarely interact outside of the breeding season. However, when they do encounter one another, they have a specific ritual of posturing. They will stand on their hind legs to appear larger, a behavior often seen in viral videos that looks adorable, but is in reality a high-stakes defensive display. By exposing their dark underbelly and baring their claws, they signal to an intruder that they are ready to fight, if their personal space is not respected. This standing posture is also used to get a better view of their surroundings, allowing them to peer over thickets of bamboo to spot potential threats. As we look toward the future of the red panda, we must confront the harsh realities of habitat fragmentation and the human-wildlife interface. As roads are built and forests are cleared for agriculture and livestock grazing, the red panda's world is shrinking. This fragmentation does more than just reduce the available space. It isolates small populations, leading to genetic bottlenecks where inbreeding becomes a significant risk. When a population becomes too small and isolated, its ability to adapt to changing conditions, such as new diseases or shifts in climate, is severely compromised. Organizations like the Red Panda Network have recognized that the key to saving the species lies in community-based conservation. By training local forest guardians to monitor panda populations and protect key corridors, these initiatives are creating a sustainable model where the survival of the panda is linked to the well-being of the local people. This grassroots approach is essential, as the red panda's habitat is not a pristine wilderness, but a lived-in landscape where humans and wildlife must find a way to coexist. The story of the red panda is a testament to the resilience of a lineage that has refused to disappear, even as its world changed around it. It is a creature that has found a way to thrive in the most demanding conditions, turning a diet of wood and leaves into a masterpiece of evolutionary survival. Every aspect of its biology, from the pseudo-thumb to the rotating ankles and the thermal tail, is a finely tuned instrument designed for life in the vertical world. Yet, as robust as these adaptations are, they were designed for a world that moved at the slow pace of geological time. In the face of the rapid changes of the Anthropocene, the red panda's greatest challenge will be whether its evolutionary loneliness becomes its ultimate downfall, or if its unique status will inspire the global effort needed to ensure that the firefox continues to haunt the misty forests of the Himalayas for millennia to come. To move deeper into the sensory world of the red panda, we must examine the microanatomy of their scent glands, which serve as the primary architectural tools for their unseen social landscapes. These specialized structures, located both in the perianal region and on the plantar surfaces of their paws, produce a complex chemical cocktail that resists the torrential rains of the monsoon season. The secretions are not merely simple markers of presence, but are rich in volatile fatty acids and semiochemicals that provide a time-stamped record of an individual's health and hormonal status. When a red panda encounters a scent mark left by a rival or a potential mate, it utilizes a specialized Fleeman response, curling its upper lip and using its tongue to draw the molecules toward the vomeronasal organ located in the roof of the mouth. This allows the animal to taste the biography of its neighbor, determining whether the individual who passed by was a dominant male in his prime or a female approaching her brief window of fertility. This chemical signaling is a crucial adaptation for a creature that lives in a vertical, visually obstructed environment where vocalizations might attract the attention of a hunting leopard. The vocal repertoire of the red panda, while secondary to its olfactory communication, is surprisingly nuanced and provides a window into its emotional state. Beyond the common twitter, which is a high-pitched bird-like series of notes used during social proximity or breeding encounters, They also employ a quack snort when agitated. This sound is produced by a rapid expulsion of air through the nasal passages, often accompanied by a defensive arching of the back. In moments of extreme distress, or when a cub is separated from its mother, they emit a piercing whistle like distress call that carries remarkably well through the dampened air of a cloud forest. These sounds are often muffled by the dense moss and thick bamboo understory, which acts as a natural acoustic insulator, further necessitating the redundant system of scent marking. The frequency of these vocalizations peaks in the early spring, a time when the mountain air is still crisp, but the internal clocks of the pandas are beginning to signal the start of the reproductive cycle. As we look more closely at the skeletal structure of the red panda, we find that its living fossil status is written into every joint and bone. Their rib cage is surprisingly flexible, allowing them to compress their bodies to fit into narrow rock crevices or hollow logs for safety. The scapula, or shoulder blade, is positioned in a way that allows for an expansive range of motion in the forelimbs, a trait essential for an animal that must frequently pull its body weight up vertical trunks. This musculature is powered by a heart that, while relatively small, is highly efficient at extracting oxygen in the thin air of altitudes reaching 4,000 meters. Their blood chemistry shows a high affinity for oxygen, an adaptation shared by many high-altitude specialists, ensuring that even during the lethargic periods of winter, their vital organs remain sufficiently oxygenated. This physiological resilience is what allows them to remain resident in the high mountains year-round. Unlike many other Himalayan mammals that migrate to lower, warmer valleys when the snow begins to fall, the nutritional chemistry of their diet involves a constant battle against the defensive compounds of the bamboo plant itself. Bamboo has evolved various methods to deter herbivores, including high silica content that wears down teeth and secondary metabolites that can interfere with protein digestion. To counter this, the red panda possesses incredibly robust molars and premolars, featuring a complex pattern of cusps and ridges designed to pulverize the tough fibrous cell walls of the bamboo. Their jaw muscles, particularly the masseter and temporal muscles, are disproportionately large for their skull size, providing the crushing force necessary to process several thousand chews per day. Once the bamboo is swallowed, the panda's liver must work overtime to neutralize the cyanogenic glycosides found in some bamboo species. This constant detoxification process adds to their metabolic burden, making their low-energy lifestyle not just a choice, but a biological mandate for survival. The phenomenon of bamboo mass flowering remains one of the most significant natural threats to the continuity of the species. Because red pandas are so specialized, the sudden disappearance of their primary food source over hundreds of square kilometers can lead to localized extinctions. Scientists have observed that these flowering events often occur in cycles of 40 to 80 years, depending on the bamboo species. In a healthy connected ecosystem, the pandas would simply shift their range to an area with a different bamboo species, such as Thamnophalamus or Eushania. However, the modern reality of the Himalayas is one of habitat islands created by human settlement. When a bamboo forest dies back, these islands become traps. This isolation also prevents the rescue effect, where individuals from a thriving population migrate to a declining one to bolster its numbers and genetic diversity. The loss of these migratory corridors is perhaps the most silent and devastating aspect of habitat fragmentation. To understand the red panda's place in the modern world, we must also look at the human-wildlife interface, where traditional lifestyles meet modern conservation challenges. In many parts of Nepal and India, the red panda's habitat overlaps with the grazing lands of domestic livestock, particularly yaks and chauri. While the livestock themselves do not directly compete with the pandas for food, pandas being in the trees and yaks on the ground, the presence of herders and their dogs creates a secondary set of problems. Feral and domestic dogs are a primary source of canine distemper, a viral disease that is nearly 100% fatal to red pandas. Furthermore, the collection of firewood and nigolo, or small-diameter bamboo, by local communities can thin the forest to a point where the pandas no longer feel secure. This is why the work of the Red Panda Network, focusing on community forest user groups, is so vital. By providing herders with anti-distemper vaccinations for their dogs and promoting fuel-efficient stoves, conservationists are addressing the root causes of habitat degradation while respecting the economic needs of the human population. The Forest Guardian program is a shining example of how traditional ecological knowledge can be paired with modern science. These guardians are local villagers who are paid to patrol their own community forests, removing traps, monitoring panda sightings, and educating their neighbors about the importance of the species. This approach transforms the red panda from a competitor for forest resources into a source of community pride and economic stability. In many areas, the red panda has become an umbrella species, meaning that the protection of its high-altitude forest habitat also ensures the survival of countless other species, from the satyr tragopan pheasant to the Himalayan black bear and hundreds of unique orchid species. By saving the red panda, we are essentially saving a whole vertical ecosystem that serves as the water tower for millions of people living downstream in the Indo-Gangetic Plain. The global impact of the red panda also extends into the realm of digital culture and international diplomacy. While the giant panda has long been used as a tool for panda diplomacy by the Chinese government, the red panda has carved out its own niche as a symbol of the fragile beauty of the mountains. Its presence in zoos around the world serves as a critical reservoir for the species through the Global Species Management Plan. These captive populations are not just for display. They are a genetic insurance policy. Research conducted in these facilities has provided much of what we know about their reproductive biology and metabolic rates, data that would be nearly impossible to collect in the wild, given the species' secretive nature and the rugged terrain they inhabit. The international stud books for red pandas ensure that the captive population remains genetically diverse, avoiding the pitfalls of inbreeding that plague many small, isolated wild populations. As we conclude this exploration of the first two content pillars, we find ourselves standing at the edge of a great mystery. The red panda is a creature that exists in the in-between spaces, between the ancient and the modern, between the carnivore and the herbivore, between the ground and the sky. Its survival is not guaranteed, but its story is one of incredible endurance. It is a lineage that has weathered the passage of millions of years, adapting to the rise of the highest mountains on Earth, and finding a way to thrive where others would perish. The red panda reminds us that evolution does not always favor the biggest or the strongest, but often the most specialized and persistent. As the mists continue to roll through the fir forests of the Himalayas, the silent, red-furred guardian of the canopy remains, a living link to a world that was, and a hopeful symbol for the world that could be. The transition from the wild forests to the cultural and mythological landscape reveals even deeper layers of the red panda's identity. In the folklore of the Lepcha people, the red panda is often depicted as a clever and elusive trickster, a character that can disappear into the shadows at will. This mythological invisibility mirrors the animal's actual behavior in the wild, where even experienced trackers can go weeks without a single sighting. This ghost of the forest quality has led to its status as a sacred animal in several mountain cultures, where it is believed that the panda's presence ensures the purity of the mountain springs. To harm a red panda was once thought to bring a curse of drought upon a village, a belief that inadvertently served as a powerful conservation tool for centuries. In modern scientific terms, this purity is reflected in the red panda's role as a bioindicator. Because they are so sensitive to changes in their environment, specifically the health of the bamboo understory and the temperature of the canopy, a thriving red panda population is a sign of a robust and healthy mountain ecosystem. Conversely, their disappearance is often the first warning sign of a forest in decline. As climate change begins to push the thermal niche of the Himalayas higher and higher, the red panda is finding itself with nowhere left to go. The temperate forests they rely on can only move so far up the mountain before they reach the tree line, above which the harsh alpine conditions make bamboo growth impossible. This mountain-top extinction is a looming threat that requires not just local conservation, but global action to mitigate the warming of our planet. The microhabitats within the forest also play a crucial role in their daily survival. Red pandas are known to prefer forests with a high density of snags or standing dead trees. These snags provide essential nesting sites and are often home to a variety of lichens and mosses that the pandas use for bedding. The presence of large fallen logs is also important, as these act as highways through the dense bamboo, allowing the pandas to move quickly and quietly through their territory. When forests are cleaned for timber or fuel, these structural elements are often the first to go, leaving the pandas without the architecture they need for their complex life cycle. Sustainable forest management must, therefore, include the preservation of these messy, imperfect parts of the forest that are so vital for wildlife. The digestive efficiency of the red panda is further aided by their remarkably large salivary glands, which produce a thick, lubricating mucus that helps the dry, abrasive bamboo pass through the esophagus. This might seem like a minor detail, but for an animal that spends several hours a day masticating tough fiber, it is a critical physiological adaptation. Their tongue is also highly specialized, covered in small backward-facing papillae that help them strip the leaves from bamboo stalks with a single fluid motion. These small, interlocking adaptations, such as the shape of the tongue to the chemistry of the saliva, show how every inch of the red panda's body has been sculpted by its relationship with bamboo. It is a biological partnership so deep that the animal and the plant have become two sides of the same evolutionary coin. As we look toward the next chapter of the Red Panda's story, we must consider the role of technology in its protection. From satellite collars that track their movements across international borders to camera traps that provide a glimpse into their secret lives, modern science is finally pulling back the veil of the Himalayas. We are learning that red pandas are more mobile than we once thought, sometimes traveling several kilometers in a single night to find a better feeding ground. This data is being used to map out the Red Panda Highway, a series of protected corridors that will allow the species to move safely between the fragmented forests of Nepal, India, Bhutan, and China. It is a race against time, but the dedication of scientists and local communities provides a glimmer of hope that the firefox will continue to burn brightly in the mountain mists. Thank you and good night.